Ladies and mostly gentlemen, today we're going to talk about Classic WoW. Yeah, I know, Classic WoW. I know how much you guys loved my last Classic WoW video, so let's just do another one, shall we? So this one is actually related to the brand new news we got yesterday. So yesterday they came out and announced that they're now doing 6 phases of content during Classic World of Warcraft, which is great. So originally at BlizzCon they announced that they were doing 4. The community wasn't best pleased with that. A few people come out and made some videos, and a lot of people were kind of expressing their thoughts and saying what should happen, and honestly they listened, and here it is, the 6 phases of release for Classic World of Warcraft, each with different raids and dungeons and things like that, progressively releasing. Now I could just go and look at this blue post and we could do that, but I think for me I'm going to try and do something a little bit different with this one, and what we're going to do is look at the phase schedule that they've currently put out for Classic World of Warcraft and compare it with the schedule that actually came out with Vanilla WoW. So Vanilla WoW obviously had 12 major content patches in its lifetime. It ended on patch 1.12, and we're going to see how this lines up against the 6 phases of content that they're doing for Classic World of Warcraft. So let's just jump right in with phase 1 of the Classic launch. Will be Molten Core, Onyxia, and Moradin. And then when we look at the actual patches for World of Warcraft, you have patch 1.1, which had Onyxia and Molten Core, and then you actually had patch 1.2, which is the Mysteries of Moradin, which had Moradin introduced, along with the Gurubashi Arena event, along with Cloak and Helm graphics to be toggled. Obviously that'll be something that's in their default, and Feast of the Great Winter Veil event. So as I said, they only really mentioned dungeons and things like that, so this looks pretty good. Yeah, they said their reasoning for releasing Moradin with launch is because it literally launched like a couple weeks after release, so it doesn't really matter too much. If you look at the dates here, it launched on November 7th, and then you had Moradin on December 18th, so not too long at all, so that's completely fine. So, Phase 2 is Dire Maul, Azragos, and Kazakh, and that lines up perfectly with patch 1.3, The Ruins of Dire Maul, which brought in Meeting Stones, Dire Maul, Azragos, and Lord Kazakh. Interestingly, Meeting Stones is something that's not what you think it is. It's actually kind of like a weird dungeon finder type thing, and I could make a whole video about it. It's really, really strange. I don't really remember it myself, but yeah, there's an interesting history with that one. So they did mention in this blue post that they haven't mentioned PvP content. PvP content actually came in patch 1.4 and 1.5, where you had the Call of War in 1.4, which introduced the PvP honor system, and then 1.5, which introduced battlegrounds such as Alterac Valley and Wilson Gulch. So if they were to release PvP, hopefully they'll do like a kind of maybe a phase 2.5, or maybe throw it in phase 2, or even at the start of phase 3. Interesting. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, or even they could just throw battlegrounds in at the start. We'll see what happens, but I don't think they'll do that. They'll probably throw it in between 2 and 3 possibly. So next you have Phase 3, which is Blackwing Lair, Darkmoon Faire, and Darkmoon Faire deck drops begin. And this lines up absolutely perfectly with patch 1.6, Assault on Blackwing Lair, which brings in Blackwing Lair, Darkmoon Faire, Battle Masters. It also brings in Warlock and Warrior talent tree revamps. I think honestly the talents and spells will go off the 1.12 stuff, but that's something they haven't really talked about yet. So we can't talk too much about class specific things just yet. So that works out perfectly. Fantastic. Patch 1.6 lines up greatly with Phase 3. And then we move to Phase 4, which is Zul'Gurub and the Green Dragons. And this phase is actually a combination of patch 1.7 Rise of the Blood God, which introduced Zul'Gurub. Potentially they will also bring in Arathi Basin in this phase. We'll have to see about that. The Stranglethorn Fishing Extravaganza and high-level items, I'm not really sure what that is. Combined with patch 8.1, which is the Dragons of Nightmares, which brought in the 4 corrupt dragons from the Emerald Dream. It also brought in a Silithus revamp, which I didn't actually know about, which it says that it's a level 60 zone for solo players and 5-man parties, so yeah, we'll see if that actually comes in, or I don't even know what Silithus was like. Was it just an empty zone? I actually am completely unsure about that, so if you guys do know, do let me know, because that's kind of weird. So yeah, so Phase 4 is a combination of patch 1.7 and 1.8. And then we move on to Phase 5. Now this is the Ankaar war effort begins, the Ankaar raids open 20 and 40, the dungeon loot reconfiguration, the tier 0.5 dungeon gear, relics and drop rates and location changes. And this is a combination of patch 1.9, the Gates of Ankaar, which introduced the Ruins of Ankaar, the Temple of Ankaar. It actually introduced the new models for the tier 2 armor. I think this is something that was just something with development. I think this will actually be something that they have from the get-go. I think we're going to start Classic WoW with tier 2 models, but but yeah, maybe they'll go with the old ones. The old ones look like shit, but they feel like they were placeholder. It also had linked auction houses, which is interesting if they bring that in there. They also had the Timberwar Hold quest revamp. So yeah, that was pretty much 1.9. This is also actually a combination of 1.10 as well, the Storms of Azeroth, which brought in the weather effects. And again, I think that the weather effects are something that are going to be in the game from the get-go, but that is to be seen. And it also brought in the tier 0.5 armor sets. So Phase 5 is pretty much a very nice combination of patch 1.10 and 1.9. And then finally, at the end of Classic World of Warcraft, we have Phase 6, which is Naxxramas and the Scourge Invasion. Now this is actually only patch 1.11, Shadow of the Necropolis, which has some random mage and shaman changes, which obviously won't happen, and of course has Naxxramas, which is going to be a flying necropolis flying over Strathome, and the Scourge Invasion, obviously that would come with this patch as well. Patch 1.12, Drums of War, actually has the outdoor PvP enhancements and cross-realm battlegrounds now, again, and the mount changes, because that is a huge change that actually happened in patch 1.12.1, where they went from having like wolf riding and Kodo riding and changing that, and change it to apprentice and journeyman riding across the board, which was for all races. But yeah, that's another video for another time. So I'll be interested to see what happens if they actually do have the Eastern Plaguelands outdoor PvP stuff coming with launch, or they'll throw it in with Phase 6. Again, they did not mention much PvP stuff in this announcement, so that is yet to be announced. And interestingly, yeah, cross-realm battlegrounds. I wonder if that will be there from the PvP launch, or it will come at the end of Classic WoW. We will see. So that is pretty much it, guys. Basically just a massive update on the brand new schedule for Classic WoW, also just comparing it to the original Vanilla WoW. Again, this is all subject to change. They could change it in a moment, but it is looking a lot better than it did when they first announced it at BlizzCon. So let me know down below if there's any changes you would like them to make to this schedule. I personally think it's pretty great at the moment. Yeah, I mean, obviously slotting in PvP and things like that is something they need to do, and we will find out in time when they plan on doing that. So yeah, before I go, let's give a massive shout out to my amazing patrons, YouTube channel members, and Twitch subs. You guys are awesome, and if you'd like to support the channel in any of those ways, links are down below. So leave a like on this video, guys, if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't. Also got a partner Discord channel with over 3,000 members and a bunch to over on Streamlabs. And I'm also now streaming on twitch.tv/WinterGM. If you want to check me out on stream, I'm streaming a load over on Twitch every single day, having a really good time doing a lot of community events. And yeah, today we did Old Deer Normal for some transmog, so that was a lot of fun. So twitch.tv/WinterGM. And with that, guys, I'll see you next time.